going through for the past 500 years, and that is Western colonialism, settler colonialism, and the racism and the oppression that has never ended. And the biggest disappointment in all of this is to realize that after 500 years, this is still happening. That does not bode well for the rest of humanity and for the future of this planet. We have to do better. We're going to have to change as a people, as a nation, and as the entire planet, or there isn't going to be a future for this planet. That doesn't come from me. That comes from the elders and the ancestors. Thank you. I hope.
Tulin Mohammed Khalid Al-Bayah, 2 years old. Hamza Al-Sus, 2 years old. Quds Faoud Al-Lauh, 2 years old. Mila Al-Shandagli, 2 years old. Hanas Hatem Hussein Al-Kati, 2 years old.
Starvation, evacuation, and airstrikes, the daily reality of my family, Al-Aidi family in Gaza. Good evening. My name is Rula Al-Aidi. I was born in Gaza, grew up in Al-Maghazi refugee camp. And I stand before you today not just as an educator or a mother, but as a sister, an aunt, and a daughter who is desperately trying to save her family, Al-Aidi family, trapped in Gaza. Since this genocide began, my family has been forced to evacuate more than 20 plus times. Each time they carry nothing but what they can hold in their hands, moving from one place to another place, always searching for safety that does not exist. In August 24, 2025, they fled their home in a Zaytun neighborhood, only to face more tragedy. That same day, my sister-in-law, Rania, was killed. She killed by a US-made weapon that blast cut through her body. And she bled for 12 hours before dying. She left behind 6 children. The youngest, Ola, is just 4 years old. Imagine a little girl asking, "Where is my mother?" And there is no answer. My brother Muhammad has a cancer and he is in the first stage, but there is no treatment for him. My brother Misbah has been missing since November 2023, and we don't know if he is alive or dead. In September the 2nd, few days ago, another airstrike hit the tent of my sister-in-law Shireen, injuring her elderly father in the head and the leg, and wounding her little brother in both legs. And yet, bombs are not the only weapons. Starvation has become the deadliest weapon of all. My nephew Salim, who is only 18 years old, has wasted away to skin and bone. He survives only on just one meal a day. Salim is brilliant, gifted, and full of promise. But he is Palestinian, trapped in Gaza, unseen by the whole world. He writes and shares the stories of Gaza children, and he always said, I don't want their stories to die with me. My niece Noor is only 13 years old, and she suffers from epilepsy with no medicine. Her seizures grow worse. You tell me, what should I do? How do I save her? How do I convince people to see her as a human being who deserves life and love? And then there is Amir, just 4 years old, and his brother Rakab, 6 years old. They were killed inside their home, along with their uncles, their grandfather, their cousins. And the youngest of my family identified was Hassan al-Aidi, only 3 months old. My family could not find the body of little Amir. He vanished into thin air because of the powerful explosion that's made by the US. Amir and his brother should be in a school, not buried beneath the rubble. But Israel and the US have decided that the land they were born on, the land of their ancestors, should be taken from its indigenous people. This is not just one tragedy, it is a life of daily tragedies. Since the beginning of this US-funded war, I have lost more than 200 family members from both sides, my mother's side and my father's side. They were not numbers. They had names, had faces and dreams. I filed for I-131 application for 21 of my family members, desperately trying to bring them to safety. And every single one was denied. And those denials are death sentence. It stated that there is not enough evidence of a genocide or a humanitarian crisis, and I lost my sister-in-law in August 24th. Was that enough evidence? So I ask you, what would you do if you were in my place? If it was your mother, your brother, or your child? So please remember my family not as a statistic, but as people. Like Rania, who lies ended in agony, like Ola, a little girl now motherless. like Salim, starving but still writing, like Noor, without medicine. I will share some of the names of my family, the kids. The list is so long, it will take forever to be finished reading. I have some pictures here. You can look to the pictures, see their faces, and read their names. Ghina Al-Aidi, 10 years old. Iyad Rami Al-Aidi, 8 years old. Maya Al-Aidi, 5 years old. And Amir Al-Aidi, 6 years old. Rakan Al-Aidi, 4 years old. Hind Al-Aidi and her unborn child. And more relatives. Ahmed Al-Qarnawi, 12 years. Khamis Al-Qarnawi, 10 years. And Yara Al-Qarnawi, 5 years. Fadi Al-Jamasi, the father of Anas and Mahmoud, 6 years old. Dana, 5 years old. And Adam, 3 years old. Saman Mishharawi, 11 years. Farah Mishharawi, 8 years. Some of their pictures I cannot continue reading. This is my relatives' kids that have been killed by US funded weapons. Maya, just 2 years old. Iyad Al-Aidi, Ghina Al-Aidi. They were all killed in May 2024. They're supposed to be in school uniform, going to school, not dead. I'm trying hard now to save the one who's still trying to survive. And I have some pictures here of my family that's still alive. And I'm trying so hard to help them to survive this ongoing genocide. And I don't know what to do.
We love you, Rolla.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lola, this community is with you.
We're coming together.
And Sabah Al-Latif Abu Saad. Ahmed Abu Amir. Arwa Ahmad Abu Amira. Hamza, Abu al-Najah, Watin Ahmad, Saman, each of them 2 years old.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming out today. It's very, very, very hard to hear this, but we have to hear it because we, as Americans, are responsible. The United States has a program called humanitarian parole. That was the Form I-131 that Rollo was mentioning, which allows someone outside the United States to seek entry on urgent humanitarian grounds for a brief period of time. Many thousands of Ukrainians have been admitted into the United States to escape from Russia's brutal invasion of their country. Israel's war on Gaza is even worse, many times worse. Palestinians in Gaza are in far greater danger than even the Ukrainians. Israel is engaging in what a broad consensus of scholars, human rights advocates, including Israeli ones, recognize that constitutes a genocide. There is no place in the world more dangerous than Gaza right now. Scores of people, including children, are dying every day from the bombs and from malnutrition. The hospital system has collapsed, offering little care for the wounded and sick. Soldiers fire on Palestinians gathering at aid distribution sites. And yet, Gazans are banned from the United States for receiving visas for even medical evaluations. Recall that the Israelis are not only destroying hospitals, they've even banned prosthetics from entering the territory despite the huge amputee crisis. As a result, as we heard, a U.S. citizen from Gaza who lives in Pacific Grove believed that she would be able to rescue her young nieces and other family members through humanitarian parole, which is more often given if you have a close relative as your sponsor. Yet, despite providing photos, medical records, and other documentation of the dangers to her family, the U.S. government told them that they had somehow, quote, failed to establish by preponderance of evidence that they were actually in any danger. This underscores the racism and Islamophobia in U.S. policy. If you're a white, Christian, and European, we'll let you in. If you're a brown, Muslim, and Middle Eastern, we will not, even temporarily, even if you are being subjected to a genocidal war. Well, this is not new. In the 1980s, the United States denied asylum to indigenous Guatemalans who were also faced with a genocide, along with Salvadorans, Haitians, and others fleeing brutal U.S.-backed dictatorships and death squads, even while at the same time we are letting in those fleeing communist countries in Eastern Europe. Today, as back then, U.S. policy is making possible the commission of war crimes by an ally, thereby creating refugees, but then denying people the right to escape. And let's remember, the problem is not just with the Trump administration. Our two senators, Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla, our Congressman Jimmy Panetta, deny there is a genocide going on in Gaza, deny that Israel is committing war crimes at all. Instead, they attack international jurists and human rights organizations that document these war crimes. And they support Trump's policies of providing unconditional military aid to Israel, even though polls show a large majority of Americans, including close to 80% of registered Democrats, oppose additional military aid. Panetta has attacked and sought to punish respected international jurists and other advocates of international humanitarian law for documenting Israeli war crimes, and has even supported legislation that would jail people simply for advocating boycotts targeting Israel's war and occupation. Furthermore, Panetta, whose local office is right here behind us, supported a bill expressing, quote, gratitude to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement for protecting our homeland, claiming, quote, free and open communication between state and local law enforcement and their federal counterparts remains the bedrock of public safety. And remember, ICE is not just rounding up people who are here in violation of immigration laws. They are rounding up people who are here legally as asylum seekers, waiting for their hearings. So we must make clear to Trump and his supporters, as well as Panetta and his supporters, that no, we do not believe that denying asylum to Rola Aidi's family is protecting the homeland. We do not believe kidnapping people off the streets is protecting the homeland. We do not believe deporting legal residents for opposing the war in Gaza is protecting the homeland. We do not support collaboration between ICE and our city police, the county sheriff's office, and highway patrol in order to kidnap and imprison and deport asylum seekers. Finally, just a reminder, this is not the first genocide the U.S. has supported. In addition to Guatemala, there's East Timor, there's Bangladesh, and of course, our war in Vietnam. 55 years ago, Holly Near penned the song, "No More Genocide in My Name." She'll be here performing in October. She is singing that song again for the people of Gaza, for all of us. No more genocide in our names.
Salma Mohammed Al-Azib, Allah Mohammed Al-Assar, Omar Al-Barib, Hisham Al-Banah, each of them 2 years old.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Jewell. I'm a local therapist.
My name's Ellen Garfield. I'm a local therapist.
We're here today to read a statement from our organization, Santa Cruz Mental Health Professionals for Palestine. It's titled, "We Are Mental Health Professionals and we won't be silent." As mental health providers who work directly with traumatized members of our community, we have extensive experience with what traumatization looks like in the human body and are painfully aware of the impacts of trauma on development, connection, and long-term psychological, relational, and physical health. We understand how trauma can also ripple out from individuals to families, communities, and beyond, and can have lasting impacts for generations to come. We want to make clear that what is happening to the Palestinian people is deeply harmful and profoundly traumatizing, and is also psychologically damaging to all of us as witnesses. This conflict arose decades ago in histories of transgenerational trauma and has created tremendous burdens for current and future generations. If we want to build a safer and more peaceful world for all people, we must stop these devastating attacks and the agenda of ethnic cleansing that drives them. We know every human life is valuable and wholly meaningful. Every one. We stand against the dehumanization, starvation, and killing of Palestinian people, as well as the destruction of their homes, hospitals, mosques, schools, stores, streets, water purification plants, and more. We understand the sanctity of each human life, of each human injured or killed, of each person who digs through the rubble in hopes of finding the survivors or remains of their family or neighbor, of each child who has lost their family and is growing up under the sounds of bombardment and destruction, of each family forced to flee their homes, of each baby who dies because of the Israeli blockade of infant formula, and each child and parent and community member who starves or is killed seeking food, or bombed while sheltering in tents. We would never allow these things to be ignored if they occurred in our own community, and we will not allow them to be ignored when they are happening in Palestine, to Palestinians. We also work with grief in our capacity as mental health providers. We recognize the importance of dignity in death and the importance of death rituals and ceremonies to honor loved ones. We know when grief is blocked, and that it is itself a trauma, and can lead to excruciating psychological wounds. The chaos and destabilization in Palestine has not allowed refugee survivors to have sufficient time or space to rest, process, and to honor the lives that have been lost.
The whole world is watching live as horrific war crimes are being allowed to continue and entire family lines are being wiped out, all without any immediate protective action. Mental health workers are often pressured to not be political, but in these times, we as an organization agree that neutrality or silence is equivalent to the acceptance of these atrocities. Countless activists and organizations have debunked the false claims that opposing genocide is anti-Semitic and the cynical propaganda that equates Zionism with Judaism. It feels absurd to need to speak to this when we are calling for an end to the killing of babies. Many of the therapists in our group are anti-Zionist Jews, and we organize in coalition with Jewish-led resistance. We have been witnesses of this live stream genocide. It has been soul-crushing to see the endless death of civilians, of families, of nurses and doctors and press, and most especially of Palestinian babies and children. And our grief and rage is nothing compared to the Palestinian experience of this terror and this unimaginable loss. We will continue to stand against genocide in Palestine.
Sila Hamuda, 2 years old. Tulin Ahmed Al-Sharafa, 2 years old. Mesk Jawad Al-Luh, 2 years old. Islam Hamza Al-Luh, 2 years old. Yahya Mohammed Al-Habush, 2 years old.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I am Palestinian American, and when I first arrived to this country, I was a young teenager, and as soon as I learned about the struggle and the genocide against the native indigenous population of the Americans, I knew that they were Palestinian and we were indigenous natives of Palestine, the same people. So thank you so much for addressing the group today. And the struggle will continue and we will all be liberated. And thank you so much for making space to honor and grieve the thousands of children slaughtered by the Zionist state, Israel. I always feel like I need to give a little background. I was born to 1948 Nakba survivors. In 1948, Zionist terrorist armies came to our land, to Palestine, and carried out massacres for the purpose of ethnically cleansing huge parts of Palestine. They expelled 75% of the population to make our land and resources available to Jews only. My father's line from Akka, Palestine, in the northern part of Palestine, all of them except he, as an older teenager, decided, like all other refugees in a war situation where they cannot defend themselves, to move away. So they moved away to Lebanon, fled with a key. The house was furnished, it was built, to come back after the ceasefire. And guess what? 77 years later, Israel, Zionism, with the support of the West and the US, have not allowed them to come back to return, even though the return of refugees is an international right. My mother's family, half of them became either refugees because she was from Nazareth, again in the north of Palestine. About half of them remained. So my mom and dad found each other, they got married, and I was born. So in that same year, again, same year, 77 years ago, in the southern part of Palestine, the same Zionist terrorist organizations went terrorizing and massacring unarmed civilians. The whole 1948, between 450 and 500 Palestinian villages were destroyed. That's where maybe some trees were sent there to build over their blood. But in the Gaza area, just right north of Gaza, the Palestinians who fled to Gaza as a result of the same bombardment, the same massacres, and the destruction of 190 villages. So they did what most civilians who are unarmed and being shot at do. They moved to Gaza City. So at least half of the population of Gaza are from 1948 Palestine, which we call Israel now. But all of Palestine is all of Palestine. We're all Palestinian, okay? So, and the Palestinian people have resisted that reality since day one, demanding for their right of return. A little background, okay? So Israel's genocide in Gaza is claiming one Palestinian child's life every 30 minutes. And the young survivors face unimaginable horrors, including starvation, holocausting, and severe injuries that maim them for life. And they face trauma, re-trauma, and re-trauma. Israel's atrocities are not only grave violations of the children's human rights. Israel itself is an affront to all of humanity, and humanity is rising. The people of Gaza and all of Palestine will never, ever leave their homes again. They will not surrender their human right to have sovereignty over their own nation and over the lives and futures of their own children. And that's why Israel now is doing an outright genocide, meaning killing all of them because they're not going to leave. Children's education is a great casualty and a well-planned one. Before the genocide started, almost 2 years ago, Gazans had a high educational level and one of the world's highest literacy rates despite difficulties from Israel's occupation, blockades, and oppressive measures. Now, searching for food instead of school supplies is what surviving children do. And what's left of schools have become shelters for families. A significant percent of the children's teachers have been murdered, disabled, and or displaced. So have the children's doctors, health staff, water, food resources, and everything. Sounds very bleak, but there is a Palestinian concept that guides their survival and their freedom. That is called sumud. Sumud translates closely to steadfastness, but it's a lot deeper than that. It's entrenched in Palestinian history now. It is a form of resistance that doesn't stop. Teachers and children survivors are not easily deterred. Any period of time that bombs are not exploding, a teacher gathers students to teach. The people of Palestine are not easily deterred. Every day they wake up, tend their olive trees, teach their children, create art, and live full lives under conditions designed to break them. They're proving that simply existing with dignity is an act of defiance. Stay Palestinian. Wassalamu alaikum.
Jihad al-Maghari, Ezidin Afane, Alma Abu Kamar, Abd Sabri Bahram, all murdered at 2 years old.
Hi, I'm Christine Hong. I'm a local ethnic studies educator. I helped organize the UC People's Tribunal for Palestine, and I'm a core member of the Institute for the Critical Study of Zionism. So 20 months ago, on January 10th, 2024, after Richmond, Oakland, Hollister, and San Bruno city councils unanimously supported ceasefire resolutions, many of us here, and I remember seeing you, waited in an extraordinarily long line outside the Santa Cruz City Council chambers, some of us for up to 10 hours, to speak in favor of a ceasefire resolution. We were in the overwhelming majority, but in a farce of the democratic process, our elected officials, including Mayor Fred Keeley, voted 5-2 against a bare bones resolution which called for a permanent and immediate ceasefire, the return of Israeli hostages, and the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Only 20% of the public speakers opposed the resolution. They argued that Palestine is not a local issue, and elected officials needed to focus on matters close to home. In an effort to justify her opposition, an Aptos rabbi stated to the media that if the ceasefire resolution had condemned Hamas, it would have sailed through. At the historic 50th anniversary of the Santa Cruz Pride Parade, the same rabbi from the sidelines heckled the passing Santa Cruz Jews for a free Palestine contingent who were chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine must be free," by shouting, "Go over there, go over there." Stunned by what she was saying, I responded, there's work to be done here. In a world system that is conditioned by imperialism, there is no innocent here that is not entangled with profound violence over there. As the Palestinian writer Hassan Kanafani has said, imperialism has laid its body over the world. We who live in the belly of the beast, who called for a ceasefire, who ceaselessly organized to de-Zionize American institutions, understand our complicity in world-shattering violence in Palestine. Through our tax dollars, we are materially complicit in Israeli and U.S. state terrorism. Yet we have witnessed our elected officials not only funnel billions of lethal, world-destroying military aid to Israel, but also draft laws making it a punishable offense to speak the truth about the genocide in our classrooms. Last October, when I asked Gail Pellerin, who had authored a bill 1277 that creates a costly surveillance bureaucracy that, in collaboration with the discredited and shameful Anti-Defamation League, polices what is definitionally considered to be a genocide in California classrooms, I asked her if she believed that Israel was perpetrating a genocide. She responded, "I do not." She authored that bill. She co-authored it. Okay. Guess what, Assemblywoman? The International Association of Genocide Scholars disagrees with you. When I asked Pellerin if she thought it was okay that hundreds of police were deployed against the Gaza Solidarity encampment at UC Santa Cruz, her response was, "When the police are deployed, I think it's for the safety of everyone." We who organize from a place of complicity know that the repression, the censorship, and abrogation of our freedom of speech, the police violence, the surveillance, and the deportations we are experiencing here are inextricably tied to the genocide that the United States is aiding and abetting against the Palestinian people. Palestine is a local issue. What we fund and do over there has lethal impacts over there, and what is happening there impacts here. Gaza has been laid waste. Instead of one ancestor having thousands of descendants, entire families have been blasted and starved off the face of the earth. And thousands of ancestors have but one descendant, if at all. We, on the funding and supplying end of this kill chain, have seen an endless succession of images of death, ruin, and utter horror. Yet we refuse to adjust ourselves to injustice. It might give us pause that even former CIA Director Leon Panetta conceded that Israel committed a form of terror with its pager attacks in Lebanon. By contrast, his son Jimmy, who inherited his father's House seat, dares not engage in critical thought. So I want you to hear this figure because just a little while ago it was $100,000 less. Having received $446,000 from AIPAC, he has obligingly fed the maw of the U.S.-Israel genocide machine. Senator Alex Padilla, who has received $104,055 from AIPAC, and Senator Adam Schiff, brace yourselves, who has received $6,234,34 have done the same. In return for the blood money that stains their hands, they reliably rubber stamp unconditional military aid to Israel, weapons that have cruelly murdered Rola's family and many tens of thousands of Palestinians. Theirs is the dirty bipartisan business of war. It threatens us all. According to international humanitarian law, Occupation is allowed only as a temporary state of affairs, and an occupied people possess the right to resist. There's no law in the books that sanctions genocide. Yet as Israel negotiates in bad faith, breaks the ceasefire, proposes displacing indigenous Palestinians to South Sudan, and uses this crisis in a brutal, expansionist Lebensraum move to grab even more land, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, Southwest Syria, and Southern Lebanon, our elected officials who dutifully play their parts in facilitating the greater Israel fever dream would have us believe that genocide and imperialist expansionism is defense. When will this madness, this heartbreaking terror, this insatiable appetite for death stop? Next week, with the backing of JPAC, Assemblywoman Dawn Addis and other members of the Legislative Jewish Caucus, which controls, by the way, the budget committees of both the state Senate and the Assembly, will strive to push AB 715 forward. This bill would create a top-down surveillance apparatus through a costly bureaucracy that includes a civil rights office and an anti-Semitism prevention coordinator whose authority will supersede that of local school districts. The purpose? To make it impermissible to study Israeli settler colonialism and genocide against the Palestinian people. It would upend existing state education code, and as we're seeing in districts across the state already, it would prevent teachers from broaching difficult and discomforting topics in the classroom. In earlier iterations of this bill, the Jewish Caucus, which Jewish Voice for Peace calls the Israel Caucus, would have restricted the focus of ethnic studies to the domestic experience of people of color, when the story of people of color is one that crosses borders in ways that indict imperialism. So I'm going to end here. All politics are local, even as they are international. This hits home. As Addis has plugged multiple versions of her genocide-denying legislation, she's turned a deaf ear to the struggles of the majority Latinx population of Watsonville, who fought for 2 years for ethnic studies against trumped-up charges of anti-Semitism. Addis, Pellerin, Panetta, Keeley, you were elected to serve the people in your districts, yet you have aided and abetted a genocidal war machine. Shame on you!
All of these children were 2 years old when they were murdered by Israel in the United States. Najama al-Said, Hawla al-Sarsawi, Salah, Musa, Khalil, Ayash, Mayar, al-Adam.
Hello, I'm Rabbi Chel Mandel, and I'm the rabbi of a newer Jewish community out here called the Tzimtzum community. Thank you, Sheila, for asking me to talk. It's always full circle because Professor Stephen Zunas was my professor 13 years ago who taught me about radical nonviolence and how to be there for other people. And I wrote a class about the occupation of Palestine at that time. So it's beautiful to be back here and hear you. According to the Jewish calendar, we've entered the holiest month of the year. It's the month of Elul, where one is tasked with Heshbon HaNefesh, which is soul searching, taking account of one's soul, looking at your actions. We are to reflect and make our wrongs right. The number one thing we're called on to do is tshuva, to turn to a better version of ourselves and to apologize to those who need to hear the apology. Often, teshuvah's talked about between person to person to apologize, or person and God. But modern day rabbis ask the question of, what does it mean to do collective teshuvah, collective apology, when we've done harm as a Jewish people? Some of our community has not gotten there yet, and they don't realize their role in the system of harm and genocide. I pray that those people and those Jews in my community wake up. One of the things we do to wake up in the month of Elul is we blow the shofar. I'm going to blow the shofar in honor that Jews everywhere wake up and hear the call of justice. In our community, the Tzimtzum community that we're building out here in Santa Cruz, we will be doing communal teshuvah over the Jewish holidays that are coming up soon. We will continue to stand in solidarity with Palestinians, send aid and money as much as we can to those in Gaza, say the names out loud of those in Gaza. Pray daily for the 2.3 million people in Gaza without food. We will say their names and their stories, and we will not allow them to be erased in our Jewish community. Know that there are also other Jewish communities out there like this. We are not the only ones. Jews are commanded to speak up on behalf of our neighbors who are suffering. Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, don't stand idly by the blood of your neighbors. It is a command to feed those who are hungry, to speak up when something is wrong, to clothe the naked. So many more Jewish teachings. We know Israel's government is not rooted in Jewish law or Jewish values, but it is a twisted and perverted version of our religion. The danger of religion is when we read our text to apply our values to only our own people. Our Torah, our sacred text, is meant to hold and care for all people. My teshuvah, my apology, my turning this year is on behalf of some of my Jewish siblings who don't know that yet. It should not be political to want to save starving children. Every rabbi should be here today. It should not be controversial to not want shrapnel killing children. How have so many leaders not spoken out? Spiritual ones, political ones. Why can they not say genocide? Omar El-Akkad says, the thing about calling something a genocide is that once you do, you have to do something about it. Is that why we're so scared to say it? We don't want to intervene. We don't know how to intervene. What are we doing? We're here today to honor the many children murdered, a death toll that is still not settled. Numbers are being added daily. And we cannot even cognitively comprehend numbers as high as 20,000 plus. The cognitive dissonance is real. I think about the children I taught for years. I used to teach in a day school. I recall so many memories. I think of each child and their name. I think about how each child was a whole world, a universe connected to so many other people. Each child has a favorite color, a playtime activity, a favorite book. I laugh sometimes and think about how I was always assigned to be at lunch duty with those kids. I'd walk around making sure each kid was eating their lunch, reminding them to eat their vegetables, and I would tell them if they didn't want to eat their candy or dessert, I'd be happy to. Watching the kids exchange snacks and laugh together over lunch was one of my favorite times as a teacher. But now today, when I think about children, I think about the children in Gaza. Reem Kader, 41, a mother of 5 in Gaza, said, "We haven't eaten protein for 5 months. My youngest child is 4 and he doesn't know what fruit and vegetables look or taste like." Sit with that for a second. A child that has not seen fruit or vegetables. We must continue to fight for their lives. I pray today for moral clarity to come over all of the people who are in denial of what is unfolding in Gaza and the West Bank, for those who've refused to look for decades now. I pray for an immediate end of violence, bombing, and harm, and for aid, food, and support to arrive to those in Gaza. I pray for a time where the kids can run around without threat to their safety, when they can be in school learning and playing at recess, and for each child to be nourished with food and water. May we remain samud, steadfast in our solidarity for a liberated Palestine. And in this town, in my Jewish community, we will continue to say the names and do our best to continue our solidarity with Palestine.
These 5 children were 2 years old when they were murdered by Israel with the bombs of the United States. Amr al-Dini, al-Shaima al-Qawrani, Suleiman Shaban Eid, Muhammad Abu Azra, Iyad Maruf.
Hello, I'm Sarah Ringler, a retired middle school teacher from the Pajaro Valley, and I'm part of the group with the quilt project there, the babies in Gaza who never made it to their first birthday quilt project. It started in mid-July with frustration over the unending depressing news of the young children of Gaza being killed by the Israeli government and soldiers. As artist Elizabeth Williams, who's an artist of this area for a very long time, and I commiserated on her front porch. She recalled the AIDS quilt from 1985. So it sparked the idea of a memorial quilt for babies. It took us some time to come up with some numbers. We came up with each quilt equaling a total of 711. At that time, that was the numbers that were Al Jazeera had recorded for babies under 1, didn't make it to their first birthday. So it sparked the idea of a memorial quilt for babies, and we came up with a total of 36 quilts with 20 on each, making a total of 711 of the numbers at that time that had been recorded. And we still have a couple of slots left. If you would like to make a quilt with 20 names on it, we would welcome it. I think we have like 4 groups of names left. Many of the people who made those quilts are here right now. I was already working with the Santa Cruz Read Their Names group. They were planning an event for September 5th, which is today, to read names of many of the children who were part of the genocide. We decided to add the quilt project. Emails went out, responses came back, women sent requests for the names of 20 children. Slowly, quilts started coming in. Reports of a few broken sewing machines along the way, cramped hands that couldn't stitch like they used to, little needles, and the continual challenge of trying to thread a needle when your eyes aren't so good anymore. Here's some of the comments that came when people turned in their quilts. One from Janet Swan, and I'll point out those later. My quilt portrays what a Palestinian baby's life would have been filled with. Love, home, safety, tatreez, which is the stitchery from Palestine, which is so intricate, nobody could have done 20 names in a month and a half. From a grandmother, handmade toys. From a grandfather, a beautiful, colorful world, the heritage of the Palestinian people, represented by the national flower, which I think we have down here too, the red poppy, right? Also, Lane Rabar from Marina titled her piece, My Shattered Heart, and said it was a hard topic, but I enjoyed the challenge. Another, Angela Gleason, and I can point out hers is the blue one. It's about my quilt. It is the first one I have made. My mother was a quilter. The foundation of this piece is a part of her quilt. I used solar printing to put the names on the fabric. I felt joining it to my mother's piece was a reminder how grateful I am that I have lived and enjoyed my mother's long life. She lost 1 child. I know how devastating that was. I can't imagine the pain that all mothers of these children are experiencing. One idea expressed a few times was, and I'll give you the one from Nancy Godari, my original idea morphed into an art piece memorial to traditional baby quilts, so that each block with each child's name could at least represent the baby's quilt he or she should have had. Finally, I'm going to quote what Lauren Keenan wrote, and I can point out her quilt. What this quilt represents to me: in arid countries, the color green is associated with paradise. The green in this quilt is meant to represent paradise I wish for these babies. Green is also one of the colors of the Palestinian flag, and watermelons are green. Watermelons often symbolically used to represent Palestinians, since they were sometimes prohibited from carrying their flag. Red is the color of blood, and here represents all the bloodshed this war has caused, mostly the blood of innocent like these babies. Red too is in the color of the Palestinian flag, and is again associated with watermelon and the connection to the Palestinian people. The veiled effect used with the names of the 20 babies represented by this quilt illustrates how life force, the inner light, was cruelly snuffed out before it got to glow brightly. White is another color on the Palestinian flag and is the color of the watermelon rind. The subdued tans and browns used for the colors of the immense amount of rubble entombing the babies, of which Gaza has been reduced to by the ceaseless bombings of their towns and cities, the destruction of their olive groves and pasture lands. The tiny medallions read, "Plant seeds of justice, scatter seeds of kindness, reap peace. That is my hope for the future in Gaza and everywhere in the world." Lauren Keenan, August 2025. Thank you.
These 5 children were murdered by Israel and the United States before their 2nd birthday. Basma Abu Hamda, Jad Saban, Lynn Alkanyo, Anas Hamad, Kinda Al-Tahrai,
Thank you. I'm Unhe Langis, a retired literature professor, and I'd like to read a few poems for you. The first one is by a Palestinian American poet, Naomi Shihab Nye, and it's called Shoulders. This poem speaks to the radical tenderness that we as human beings must exhibit and aspire to in our lives, in our world, especially with regard to our children, the bearer of dreams. The metaphorical dangers of life, crossing the street in the constant rain, intensify in the present struggle against genocide through raining bombs, killing fields, and unrelenting starvation. So here it is, Shoulders. A man crosses the street in rain, stepping gently, looking 2 times north and south, because his son is sleeping on his shoulder. No car must splash him. No car drive too near to his shadow. This man carries the world's most sensitive cargo, but he's not marked. Nowhere does his jacket say, "Fragile, handle with care." His ear fills up with breathing. He hears the hum of a boy's dream deep inside him. We're not going to be able to live in this world if we're not willing to do what he's doing with one another. The road will only be wide. The rain will never stop falling. Palestinian poet, scholar, and educator Rifat al-Arir was killed in an Israeli airstrike on December 7th, 2023, along with 6 family members. The next poem, a poem by poet Fadi Judah in conversation with Riyad al-Arir's poem, If I Must Die, which has an image of a white kite in the sky that a child believes is an angel looking down. Judah's fitful and frantic poem, as Iman Quota describes it, ends powerfully with I as in the personal pronoun I, as though the martyr is reborn repeatedly despite the occupier's every attempt to snuff him out. Read together, Al-Arir and Judah's poems deliver and defy sentimentality. They soar and crash into the ground. They accept the so-called inevitable and resist it. They embrace beauty and lyricism and reject it. Let me read that for you. Suddenly, I, in a blaze, died. Suddenly, time quit lingering. Suddenly, you can't find my body, can't bury what you can't find. My final poem I wrote years before my hour arrived. Suddenly, my voice, thought voiceless, because stateless, gave voice to a noisy world. Suddenly, a kite. Suddenly, I. The power of I in a spirit of oneness, in community with people and with nature, reveals itself even more in the poem Sunbird. The Palestinian sunbird is a symbol of Palestinian freedom, resistance, and hope. This poem for me describes how, despite every attempt of Israel to eradicate Palestinians and their culture from their land, to the point of what the late Palestinian poet laureate Mahmoud Darwish has called a map of absence. The inalienable Palestinian spirit, soul, and heart will never be eradicated. Here's the poem. Sunbird, I flit from gleaming river to glistening sea, from all that we to all that me, fresh east to salty west, southern sweet, and northern free. There is a lake between us, and aquifers for cactus, and basins of anemone, from the river to the sea. From the womb to breath, and one with oneness I be, from the river to the sea. Viva, viva, Palestina. Repeat with me. Viva, viva, Palestina.
These 5 children were murdered by Israel with the bombs of the United States before their 2nd birthday. Mohammed al-Muqaid, Alya Abu Taqiyeh, Masa Qatar, Gaith al-Baghdadi, Fadal al-Gaha.
Thank you, Onhei. Those were beautiful words. Before I do my little part at the end, I would like to remind everyone to take a flower or 2 with you in honor of the children's souls whom we are remembering and honoring today. So thank you so much for your open hearts, for your compassion, for your time, and all the organizing that went on for this day. It continues, by the way. So there I go again. For 77 years, Palestinians have been showing the world what it looks like to refuse to disappear. Under occupation, siege, and genocide, they've maintained their culture, their dignity, their dreams, their resistance. They are the embodiment of the soul that will not be crushed. And I know there's a Palestine in each one of our hearts. Thank you very much.
Is there another part to this, Sheila? Or do we resume the names? We can read them from here for now. Are there people who have come prepared to read names?
Edward Al-Satri, 2 years old. Maria Mohammed Kamel Abu Hayer, 2 years old. Farid Mohammed Farid Yusuf, 2 years old. Isan Alfara, 2 years old. Musa Rabi'i, 2 years old. Khalid Abu Riha, 2 years old. Wasim